Alright folks, time for a crossover between Naruto and Jujutsu Kaisen. In this story, we explore a scenario where GOJO gets reincarnated in Naruto. Yes, you heard me right, the almighty I'd win guy is born in Naruto universe. Let's see how the chaos unfolds. But before we do that, hit that subscribe button and turn the bell notifications on to never miss out on these bangers. Like the video and comment what you're doing right now, no cheating. With that out of the way, let's start. Konoha's ninja village was plunged into darkness as a store was suddenly attacked by bandits. Soon after, the store owner announced over the intercom, "For the safety of our customers and to avoid any trampling incidents, you may take the items in your hands for free as compensation for this unfortunate attack. Please exit the store in an orderly manner." Upon hearing this, the villagers left the store in a calm and orderly fashion. When Konoha's reinforcements arrived, the store owner was shocked to find the cash registers filled with bills ranging from hundreds to tens of thousands of ryo. It turned out that after the announcement, the conscientious villagers of Konoha had estimated the value of the goods they held and left the appropriate amount of money behind before leaving. What a civilized, harmonious, honest, polite, and friendly ninja village. An anonymous official commented on this, saying, "The strength of a ninja village is not determined by the number of powerful ninjas it has, but by the values of its people." Clearly, Konoha has achieved this, as even when given the opportunity to take goods for free, they still chose to pay. If I were a ninja, I would feel genuine happiness in protecting such kind-hearted people. Lord 4th Hokage, Gojo Kaigetsu reporting as per your orders. Gojo Kaigetsu entered the Hokage's office, standing straight with his hands clasped behind his back, facing the blond man in front of him, who was dressed in ceremonial robes. "Kaigetsu, I've told you before, just call me Minato in private." "That wouldn't be appropriate, Lord Hokage. When working, we should address each other by title." Minato Namikaze waved his hand, refusing to communicate with Gojo Kaigetsu in a superior subordinate manner. After finishing the first article in the magazine titled Iroha, Minato raised his head with a peculiar expression, looking at his former comrade and friend. He couldn't help but ask, "Kaigetsu, is this the invasion of the four great nations plan you requested 3.5 billion ryo for?" From a conceptual standpoint, it seems feasible. Minato hesitated, aware that as the Hokage, he needed to consider the bigger picture and avoid favoritism. Even with someone like Gojo Kaigetsu, 3.5 billion ryo was no small amount, and he needed a compelling reason to approve it. Gojo Kaigetsu nodded solemnly. "Yes, this is my plan. I've already paved the way for distribution routes to the major nations. Wind, water, lightning, and earth. Due to time constraints, the smaller nations' channels will be established later. All we need now is money to make it happen. Also, the article on the front page was written by me, while the rest are standard pieces. But even this much is sufficient. I'm concerned that if we push too hard, it might alert the other four ninja villages." Gojo Kaigetsu tapped his temple with his index finger. "All related articles are already written and stored in my mind, ready for weekly or monthly publication. By the time the four great ninja villages realize what's happening, it will be too late." Minato nodded thoughtfully, refraining from discussing the funding immediately. Instead, the straightforward man voiced his curiosity. "The store mentioned in your article, which one is it? If they made such a decision during a rogue ninja attack, I believe as Hokage, I should reward them. And this anonymous official, which Fire Country minister is it?" Minato's suggestion was well-intentioned. Rewarding the store owner would set a positive example for Konoha's ordinary villagers and ninjas, encouraging good behavior. However, Gojo Kaigetsu shook his head. "In reality, there is no such store in Konoha, nor is there any official. The entire story is fabricated by me." Minato was stunned, even more surprised. "Fabricated? Does that mean it's a lie?" Of course, as the Hokage and a rational adult ninja, he didn't ask such a trivial question. Instead, he waited quietly for Gojo Kaigetsu to continue. Gojo Kaigetsu pointed to the cover of Iroha, which he had personally designed. "The main purpose is to attract merchants from the other four great nations. Ninja wars are fought not only with the strength of high-level ninjas, but also with the economic capabilities of each village. And economic capabilities require a large amount of money. I've done the math. Besides the support we receive from the Fire Country's daimyo, the missions issued by Fire Country merchants have nearly saturated. The consecutive wars have created a huge deficit in Konoha's finances. We're spending more than we're earning, and that can't continue. We need to attract foreign investment. Minato, being a quick thinker, immediately understood. Based on Gojo Kaigetsu's explanation, Minato couldn't help but take another look at the article titled The Attack on Konoha's Store. So, the ultimate goal of this article is to portray Konoha as the perfect place for business to outsiders. A perfect business environment with honest and conscientious villagers and the trust of foreign merchants. Under Gojo Kaigetsu's influence, Minato had picked up some unusual terms. His bright blue eyes sparkled as he envisioned the grand future Kaigetsu had painted. Setting aside national grievances, the essence of being a ninja is just another job. Ordinary ninjas need to eat to earn money by completing missions. If Gojo Kaigetsu's plan succeeded, the missions from the other four great nations would drastically decrease, meaning fewer earnings for their ninjas. Over time, the economic lifeblood of the four great ninja villages would be drained by Konoha. Of course, this is an extreme scenario. Basic missions will always exist to sustain the villages, but growth would be impossible. As Kaigetsu said, it's now the beginning of the 51st year of Konoha. War is a gold-devouring beast, where one exploding tag costs thousands of ryo. Even a village as large as Konoha struggled after the Second and Third Ninja Wars. The current ninja world lacks godlike figures, and the era where super-powerful ninjas are everywhere hasn't yet arrived. Among active ninjas, no one exists who can single-handedly destroy an entire village. Kage-level ninjas are the absolute peak, with Jonin representing the village's strength, Chunin as the backbone, and Genin as valuable cannon fodder. A few more shuriken, a few more exploding tags, and perhaps the outcome of a ninja war could be changed, reducing casualties. Training a mature ninja takes time. Konoha has reached the point where even teenagers must go to the battlefield. Minato would never want his own child to step onto the harsh ninja battlefield at such a young age. He put down Iroha, and with a serious expression, placed his hands on Gojo Kaigetsu's shoulders, meeting his gaze. If that's the case, Chunin Gojo Kaigetsu, I approve your invasion of the four great nations plan. The 3.5 billion ryo will be transferred to you within one working day. This will be a harsh and long-term plan, but if it succeeds, Kaigetsu, you will become a hero of Konoha. Gojo Kaigetsu smiled and nodded. The better Konoha is, the better I'll be. The solemn and sacred task was handed over, and the atmosphere in the Hokage's office relaxed. Minato looked at his friend, teasing him. Kaigetsu, I think you're more suited to be Hokage than I am. How about I hand over the position to you, and you become the 5th Hokage? Don't joke around. Gojo Kaigetsu replied seriously. Minato, you are the Hokage. Is that so? Kaigetsu, don't regret it later. Gojo Kaigetsu, a transmigrator. In his previous life, he was a content creator in the torture category, covering a wide range of targets including video games, ACG animations, and public intellectual magazines. One moment, he closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, he had crossed into the world of Naruto and formed a deep bond with Konoha Village. The system was like this. Konoha Prosperity System. The more prosperous and powerful Konoha Village becomes, the richer the rewards Gojo Kaigetsu will receive. Conversely, if Konoha suffers a devastating blow or if its prosperity collapses, Gojo Kaigetsu will face unimaginable punishments. Prosperity is assessed from 4 dimensions: military, culture, economy, and politics. Military is easy to understand and includes, but is not limited to, the number of ninjas at various levels, the loyalty of the ninja clans, and the levels and types of jutsu. Culture and economy are also straightforward. Politics is a bit more intriguing, clarity of governance, and the ideological stance of the high-level officials. This immediately made Gojo Kaigetsu think of Konoha's root organization and the advisory council that sat uselessly behind it. If he were to eliminate them all at once, the political prosperity would likely see a qualitative leap. But with his current strength and position, he couldn't do that yet. If he tried, he'd likely be branded a rogue ninja by the next day and hunted relentlessly across the ninja world. No amount of personal friendship with Minato Namikaze would save him from that. Konoha Village. Prosperity, 4,399. Status, average. Having experienced 2 great ninja wars, it desperately needs to recuperate. Historical records. 1. Tsunade developed hemophobia and left after Nawaki's death. Prosperity, -300. 2. Jiraiya left. Prosperity, -300. 3. Orochimaru became estranged from Konoha. Prosperity, -500. 4. Tsukumo Hatake committed suicide. Prosperity, -300. 5. Danzo Shimura conducted secret experiments. Prosperity, -99. 98. Might Due died in battle. Prosperity, -300. 99. Minato Namikaze earned the title Yellow Flash and replaced Hiruzen Sarutobi as the 4th Hokage. Prosperity, 500. He had worked tirelessly on all 4 dimensions, adhering to the principle that even the smallest gain is still a gain, patching up Konoha bit by bit. Meanwhile, the elders like Danzo Shimura were like leeches, constantly draining him of resources. Fate's grip also led to the departure or death of powerful ninjas from Konoha, a situation beyond his control. As a result, despite his efforts, Konoha's prosperity stubbornly refused to rise. Worse still, it was now the beginning of the 51st year of Konoha. If history remained unchanged, his friend Minato Namikaze and the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, Kushina Uzumaki, would die during the Night of the Nine Tails. Konoha's infrastructure would suffer massive destruction. Countless ordinary ninjas would perish in the battle's aftermath. The ninja clans would begin to harbor ulterior motives, and the 3rd Hokage's faction would return to power. The prosperity collapse mechanism would undoubtedly be triggered. Fortunately, all the preliminary preparations were already complete, and Gojo Kaigetsu was finally ready to implement his plan. He would change the future. Culture, milestone achieved. Grand gift pack unlocked. The gift pack has been delivered. Skills. Dojutsu. 6 eyes proficient. 360-degree distant vision. Can see behind as well as far away. Vision remains unaffected by visual obstructions. Instantly discern whether someone is a ninja and see through their jutsu. Allows for direct tracking or prediction of chakra trajectories. Enables precise chakra manipulation. Medical ninjutsu. Reversed healing technique, beginner. Transforms one's own chakra into healing energy. Cannot be used if chakra is depleted or consciousness is lost. Recovery state depends on chakra expenditure. Summon beast. Maharaga, unsummonable. Sealed within the host, cannot be summoned or unsealed, but its chakra can be extracted. Phew! Gojo Kaigetsu took a deep breath, shocked and speechless by the grand gift pack. Over the years, the system had given him many rewards, but this time the reward was excessively generous. These were skills from Asterisk Jujutsu Kaisen Star. Judging by the skill descriptions, they had clearly been forcibly converted by the system into the Naruto World's Chakra version, but their original attributes were completely intact. Just the 6 eyes alone was the precondition for Satoru Gojo's invincibility. At first glance, it seemed like a fusion of the sharingan and byakugan, but without any limitations or side effects. Then there was the reversed healing technique. As long as his consciousness remained intact, he could use chakra to heal himself. This single point alone proved its immense value. As everyone knows, ninjas are typically high offense but low defense. Even Jonin and Kaga-level shinobi can die if stabbed in the heart with a kunai. But now, with the reversed healing technique, unless faced with Inoki's dust release, there was no longer any way to kill him instantly. This would be his strongest trump card, bar none. It absolutely could not be exposed to others. Lastly, there was Maharaga. There wasn't much to say. Gojo Kaigetsu was already fantasizing about a future where he could activate the Maharaga chakra mode. Keeping his composure, Gojo Kaigetsu casually chatted with Minato Namikaze before leaving the office and walking out of the Hokage building. At that moment, the system's prompt sounded again. 100. Gojo Kaigetsu's For Great Nations Invasion Plan has been approved. Prosperity 100 asterisk. Display panel. Gojo Kaigetsu whispered, and a transparent light screen appeared before him. Name: Gojo Kaigetsu. Age: 24, born in year 27 of Konoha. Chakra attributes: Earth Release, Wind Release, Yang Release, Reversed Healing Technique. Total Chakra: 1 card, Jonin level. Titles/positions: Underground Literary Master, Minister of Culture of Konoha, Konoha's Honored Elder, Deputy Commander of Konoha's Special Assassination Tactical Unit, Vice Principal of Konoha Ninja Academy, Hokage Advisor. Evaluation: A capable minister in times of peace, a fierce hero in times of chaos. Gojo Kaigetsu was very satisfied with his long list of titles. They were the symbols of his devotion to Konoha and his efforts to increase its prosperity. After leaving the Hokage building, Gojo Kaigetsu didn't follow his usual schedule to inspect the Ninja Academy. Instead, he made a symbolic trip to the school, where he overheard the students chanting, "Where the leaves dance, the fire burns brightly." The fire's light will continue to illuminate the village and cause new leaves to sprout. He frowned slightly in disappointment, muttering, "This is rubbish. If we could just get rid of this slogan, Konoha's cultural dimension would rise another level. Too bad it's irremovable." Gojo Kaigetsu walked past the Ninja Academy, heading towards a secluded building on the outskirts of Konoha. This was the base of the secret organization he had created. Standing in front of the base, he looked up at the sign hanging over the entrance. High Academy Publishing House. Gojo Kaigetsu smiled in satisfaction. Like how Danzo Shimura founded Root, Gojo Kaigetsu's organization operated in the shadows of Konoha, with its roots deeply embedded in the darkness. Its primary purpose was to eliminate obstacles that would hinder the village's prosperity. His Root was just as ruthless and cold-blooded, sparing no means to achieve its goals. Despite only having a bachelor's degree in his previous life, in the world of ninjas, he was undoubtedly a top scholar, a true intellectual. And intellectuals don't need weapons to kill. His cultural invasion plan against the 4 great nations had long been underway in secret, aiming to weaken the physical prowess of their ninjas. By poisoning their younger generations with cultural trash, he was attacking them from the very roots. However, due to the unique and somewhat shameful nature of this task, it couldn't be made public. For years, Gojo Kaigetsu had funded it out of his own pocket. This publishing house was also the origin of his title, Underground Literary Master. Gojo Kaigetsu cleared his throat and walked inside. Last week, we printed an additional 996 copies of Asterisk Ninja Girls Descend to Hell, all of which have been sent to Kumogakure. Asterisk Hidden Chronicles of Female Ninja Star, a total of 1,000 copies, has also been printed and will be sent to Kirigakure for sale next week. And Young Ninja Kodai and Bright Ninjutsu have already been sent to Kumogakure and Sunagakure, respectively. Sitting at the head of the meeting room table, Gojo Kaigetsu casually cracked some sunflower seeds as he listened to his subordinates' reports, nodding in satisfaction. 1. You have poisoned the minds of Kumogakures ninja. Prosperity. 20. 2. You have poisoned the minds of Kirigakure's ninja. Prosperity. 20. Listen to that. What a sweet sound. Boosting prosperity can also be achieved by affecting external environments. Simply put, weakening the enemy equals strengthening oneself. 4. You have poisoned the minds of Kumogakure's ninja. Prosperity. 5. Gojo Kaigetsu furrowed his brow, sensing something was amiss. Every other village's weakening brought Konoha a prosperity boost of 20 points. But for Kumogakure, why only 5? Yamashita, bring me a copy of the book we sent to Kumogakure this week. Why, yes, sir. Yamashita, the chief editor of the High Academy Publishing House, wiped the sweat from his brow as he quickly fetched a copy of Young Ninja Kodai from the printing room and handed it to Gojo Kaigetsu. Then he stepped back, cautiously observing Gojo Kaigetsu's expression. Chief editor Yamashita had deep respect for Gojo Kaigetsu. First, he was an ordinary person, while Gojo was a ninja. Second, Gojo held a high position in Konoha, with titles like Shadow Hokage and Konoha's mastermind among their circles. Third, distributing such borderline illegal books to the other major nations could easily get them wanted. Gojo Kaigetsu flipped through the book carelessly. It was exactly as per his instructions. No quality issues whatsoever. So, the problem wasn't with the book itself. Where then was the issue? Gojo Kaigetsu fell into deep thought. Yamashita took a step forward and cautiously suggested, "Sir, recently, the borders of the 4 great nations have seen new patrol teams, and many of our books have been seized. Should we perhaps grease some palms?" Gojo Kaigetsu waved his hand dismissively. "You handle those matters yourself. Use the funds from the accounts as you see fit. The main goal is to get the books over there. I don't care how much profit or loss we incur. I ask you, has anything happened recently in Kumogakure?" Kumogakure? Yamashita drew in a sharp breath, thinking how astute Gojo Kaigetsu was, as if he had eyes everywhere. "Yes, specifically in Kumogakure, our books have faced the strictest scrutiny. I fear we're reaching a breaking point. If we keep pushing, we might get exposed and end up on a wanted list. Then let them issue a warrant." Gojo Kaigetsu shrugged. "The publishing house is under your name. If something goes wrong, it has nothing to do with me." "Ah, I understand, sir. Gojo-sama has never visited our publishing house." Chief editor Yamashita inwardly lamented his misfortune, but dared not harbor any rebellious thoughts. Gojo Kaigetsu had shown him great kindness. Over the years, publishing these borderline illegal books for Gojo had brought his family a life of wealth and comfort. Bearing these risks was only fair. "If something does go wrong, I'll take full responsibility," Yamashita vowed, biting his lip in a display of loyalty. "Good." Gojo Kaigetsu patted his shoulder. "But there's no need to be so tense. Things may not turn out that badly. Keep up the good work. I have some other business to attend to." As Gojo Kaigetsu stepped out of the publishing house, he headed toward the official publishing office of the Land of Fire Station in Konoha to oversee the printing process of Shinobi Journal. The plan to poison the 4 great nations with harmful literature must be unwavering for at least 5 years. This operation cannot afford any mistakes, so Gojo Kaigetsu decided to approach it with the utmost caution. Meanwhile, in the distant Kumogakure, Killer B, the Jinchuriki of the 8 Tails, was currently being harshly whipped while suspended from the ceiling by the 4th Reikage. Crack, 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 asterisk. Each lash reflected A's frustration with his brother for failing to live up to his expectations. "B, I've tolerated your obsession with rap that's been eating into your training time, but now you're secretly reading this kind of garbage." Crack, asterisk. Another lash landed, and pointed angrily at the strange book titled Young Ninja Kodai lying on the wooden table. His rage had reached its boiling point. At the edge of the room, a few young ninja, all of whom were around Killer B's age and the offspring of Kumogakure's high-ranking officials, were huddled together, trembling with their hands clasped before their stomachs. They were to some extent accomplices in this mess. A snatched-up asterisk Young Ninja Kodai flipped through a few pages, and his anger only intensified. "What kind of trash are you reading? This book is truly harmful. Damn it, you brats. Do you know that Killer B didn't pass a single section of his recent evaluation? If you spend all day reading this kind of junk, it's going to get you killed. Killer B is at a critical juncture in his development as a ninja. Reading this kind of nonsense, do you want to get distracted on the battlefield and end up dead?" A's furious roars echoed through the small room, lingering long after. The whole incident started when Killer B, along with a group of young ninja, began performing poorly in their recent evaluations. Even during missions, they were often distracted and sluggish. Suspicious, the 4th Reikage ordered the Kumogakure MBU to investigate, and it didn't take long to uncover the cause. Who would have thought? The 8 Tails Jinchuriki of Kumogakure, Killer B, had been secretly reading this kind of trash. A's gaze hardened as he looked at the young ninja, the scions of Kumogakure's elite. These useless heirs had clearly led Killer Bee astray. But as the Raikage, he couldn't impose any real punishment on them. Every village has its untouchable parasites. What worried even more was, if these upper echelon brats were this way, what about the common ninja? How many of them were secretly reading this forbidden literature? At this rate, how could Kumogakure maintain its strong, battle-hardened culture? He couldn't say for sure. If things kept going this way, the village would fall into decline. Bro, don't be mad. Killer Bee cautiously spoke up, his eyes hidden behind his sunglasses but clearly fixated on the book in A's hand, afraid that his brother might destroy this precious treasure in a fit of rage. You idiot! A's temper flared, and in the next moment, he activated his lightning release chakra mode, crushing the book into dust. Order a full investigation and confiscation of all copies of Young Ninja Kodai within Kumogakure. Find out who's behind publishing these books. And finally, all of you are to be confined to your homes for reflection. Without my order, none of you are to step outside. Raikage sat in his office, his thick fingers tapping on the desk as he reviewed the investigation report submitted by the ANBU. A total of 980 prohibited books were confiscated, traced back to being printed and published by a publishing house within the Land of Fire. The people of Konoha, the hearts of their ninja, are all corrupt. A snorted to express his dissatisfaction. The relationship between Konoha and their own village, Kumogakure, had never been good. He and Killer Bee had once fought Minato Namikaze on the battlefield, a battle that earned Minato the title of the Yellow Flash. In the eyes of Kumogakure, Iwagakure was the primary enemy, with Konoha being the second. Have you figured it out? Is this Konoha's scheme? The ANBU captain reported solemnly. According to our investigation, it theoretically shouldn't be. The publisher's president is just an ordinary person named Chief Editor Yamashita, not a ninja. Theoretically? Notice the key point. What about in practice? In practice, we discovered that he had bribed our border patrol in the Land of Lightning, which is how the books were able to be transported into our village for sale. It's hard to believe an ordinary person would have the guts to sell banned books. He must be risking his life for money. Typical Konoha scum, always scheming like cowards. Raikage crossed his arms, speaking with disdain. Whether it's true or not, send someone to investigate thoroughly. What are your orders, Lord Raikage? If there's a possibility that this is Konoha's scheme, we can't alert them. He prided himself on being a man who was rough on the outside, but meticulous on the inside, though he usually preferred to rely on his muscles over his brains. Send someone to infiltrate Konoha in disguise. If it's confirmed that this is just that idiot chief editor Yamashita selling banned books for money, kill him. If there's someone behind him pulling the strings, a sharp glint flashed in his eyes. Then go undercover and become our spy within Konoha. Understood. As expected of you, Lord Raikage. The ANBU captain praised repeatedly, then cautiously reminded, but Lord Raikage, Konoha's security is very tight. Infiltrating will be very difficult, even with our Kumogakure secret techniques. If the identity, gender, and appearance don't match, they might still be exposed. So, who should we send? I pondered. The ANBU captain's concern was valid. Due to Kumogakure's unique geographical location, the villagers mostly had dark skin, rough complexions, and muscular builds, making it easy for them to be identified by Konoha's people. This was something that didn't even require the byakugan to identify. I've got it. Slammed his right fist into his left palm. Summoned Samui. A moment later, knock knock. Asterisk. Come in. The blonde, blue-eyed Samui entered the room. Samui was a tall, voluptuous woman with a curvaceous figure, delicate features, and fair skin that contrasted starkly with the typical Kumogakure ninja. She was a mature and sexy kunoichi. Despite her appearance, which made it unlikely for her to be a Kumogakure ninja, she was, in fact, a disciple of the third Raikage, trained in Kenjutsu. She was a loyal and dedicated ninja of Kumogakure. Due to certain understandable reasons, her age has been modified from 12 to 18, and her master has been changed from Killer Bee to the third Raikage. Due to her special identity, Samui held a high status in Kumogakure and only orders from the Reikage could mobilize her. Normally, because of her distinctive appearance, she didn't show herself in public often. Many Kumogakure ninja were unaware of the existence of this blonde kunoichi within their village. Lord Reikage, you called for me? Even when facing Reikage A, her expression remained indifferent. Samui, the time has come for you to take action. Your orders? Samui's voice was cold. As a ninja, she had long accepted her role. A ninja was a tool to complete missions. I need you to infiltrate Konoha. A's expression was serious as he pushed a scroll containing a secret technique for concealing one's presence and the details about the high-level publishing house across the table toward Samui. He trusted Samui completely. She was a rare talent who could maintain her composure and complete her tasks, and she was also his late father, the third Reikage's disciple. Upon hearing the mission, Samui narrowed her eyes. Infiltrate Konoha? Has a new genius ninja emerged in Konoha that poses a threat to Kumogakure? Not all ninja methods were honorable. In the ninja world, it wasn't uncommon to infiltrate other villages to assassinate promising talents. After all, a genius who hadn't grown up was just a genius, not a powerful warrior. Samui suspected that perhaps a ninja had emerged in Konoha who could rival the Yellow Flash, and that was why Reikage A's face was dark. If that were the case, Samui instinctively touched the short sword at her waist. Even if it cost her life, she would complete the mission. Sacrificing the life of a jonin to eliminate a genius from an enemy faction was a deal worth making. It's not as bad as you think. Reikage A reassured her. I need you to infiltrate a publishing house in Konoha and find out the truth behind it. The target is just an ordinary person. Even if you kill him, it won't draw too much attention. But if there's someone behind him, then you'll stay undercover as our spy in Konoha. Huh? A publishing house? Samui, who had initially displayed a resolute expression as if ready to die, now showed a rare look of surprise on her usually cold face. Despite her best efforts to guess, she hadn't expected such a strange mission. What happened? That wretched publishing house dared to publish and print prohibited erotic books to sell in our Kumogakure. Even worse, that fool killer B was actually ensnared by such books, neglecting his training. None of his recent Jinchuriki assessments were up to par. In his agitation, he slammed his fist down, smashing the desk in his office. Samui, tell me, should someone like that be allowed to live? A gritted his teeth, desperate for his subordinate's agreement. In that case, indeed, Samui casually flipped through the information, quickly grasping what had happened, and her gaze grew colder. Corrupting their village's Jinchuriki was one thing, but how could someone write such shameless books? Disgraceful, despicable. She put away the scroll and the information, her voice devoid of personal emotion. I'll make sure to complete the mission, Lord Reikage. I'll get to the bottom of this. In the official publishing house of the Land of Fire, located in Konoha, there's no such thing as a poor market, only poor efficiency. Strengthen team building, improve work efficiency. Long-term planning, production comes first. Never stop production, even if it means breaking the rules. Such slogans were everywhere, strategically placed by GOJO Kaigetsu. Under his deliberate design, the entire printing factory was filled with similar motivational phrases, creating an environment charged with a spirit of struggle. The scent of ink wafted through the air. The workers' feet were moving so fast on the printing pedals that they seemed to leave after images, as page after page of clear, legible text was printed out. Limited by the current level of technology, the printing output was somewhat low, so they had to resort to such extreme measures to speed up the printing of ideology of the wood. Production. It's all about damn production. To launch an offensive against the four great nations, a massive quantity of ideological magazines was needed to overwhelm them. GOJO Kaigetsu wanted to ensure that the citizens of those nations would open their eyes to see the Land of Fire and close their eyes to advanced civilization, deeply embedding these ideas into the minds of their merchants. As soon as the workshop supervisor saw GOJO Kaigetsu approaching, he immediately shouted out the prepared slogan. Thank you for your hard work, GOJO-sama. The workers, who were frantically stamping the pedals, also shouted the same slogan in unison. The atmosphere in the printing factory became even more fervent. Gojo Kaigetsu had a great reputation among these ordinary workers. In such war-torn times, where else could they find a stable, well-paying job? Gojo Kaigetsu smiled without speaking, merely raising his hand in the air to quiet the fervent shouts. The afternoon passed in the blink of an eye, and as Gojo Kaigetsu lay back in his boss's chair, taking a light nap, he slowly opened his eyes. A strange light flickered deep within his eyes. With his 6 eyes, he could see things that were previously invisible, like the chakra-bearing entity rapidly approaching from afar. It seems I need to start wearing protective goggles or a black silk band, or else these eyes might draw unwanted attention. Gojo Kaigetsu muttered to himself as he casually opened a drawer and took out a black silk band, tying it over his eyes. 3 seconds later, the 12-year-old Kakashi Hatake, dressed in an umbu uniform and wearing a black mask, arrived behind Gojo Kaigetsu. Kakashi looked at the umbu's de facto leader before him and noticed that his appearance was somewhat unusual today, but he didn't dare comment, quickly reporting. Gojo-sama, there's been an incident. What is it? Gojo Kaigetsu lazily stretched, knowing that since the system hadn't alerted him to any changes in prosperity, it wasn't anything worth worrying about. The funds that the 4th Hokage was going to approve for you today were intercepted by Danzo Dano. He told me to inform you to meet him at the root base. The atmosphere instantly grew tense. Kakashi instinctively held his breath, feeling no warmth from the sunset's rays falling on him. Because of his position behind Gojo Kaigetsu, he couldn't see the expression on his face. But he could tell that Gojo-sama's face must not look good right now. Kakashi quickly lowered his head. Intercepting funds approved by the 4th Hokage is one thing, but summoning me, the deputy commander of Konoha's Special Assassination Tactical Unit, to meet him at the root base? Isn't he overstepping his bounds? What does he intend to do? Rebel? Is Minato the 4th Hokage, or is Danzo the 4th Hokage? Gojo Kaigetsu spoke with a blank expression. He had always known that Minato's position as the 4th Hokage was not secure. There weren't many who were absolutely loyal to him and followed his orders. In the eyes of the major clans of Konoha, his authority wasn't absolute. Now, Danzo had essentially shown his hand, telling Gojo Kaigetsu that Konoha's financial allocations were under his control. After all, Minato was just a commoner. Despite being Jiraiya's disciple and considered part of the Hokage's faction, he was still a commoner. Even though his strength, talent, and character were well suited for the role of Hokage, his background was still too shallow. The main reason he became Hokage was that he held the nuclear launch button of Konoha. Despite so many unfavorable factors, he was still the Hokage, recognized by the daimyo of the Land of Fire. He was the 4th Hokage in the eyes of Konoha's villagers and a nominal leader of Konoha. How could Danzo dare to pull such a stunt? Kakashi stood silently behind Gojo Kaigetsu, not daring to say a word. Today, Gojo Kaigetsu's presence felt even more oppressive than usual. This level of pressure, can a Chunin really possess this? Gojo-sama was officially recorded as a Chunin, no doubt about it. Although his administrative abilities were on par with those of a Kage-level ninja, he was still somewhat lacking as a ninja. When it came to Konoha's internal power struggles, Kakashi chose to remain silent and play deaf, only wanting to leave this whirlpool quickly and return home to secretly read the female ninja's descent into hell that he had purchased at a high price from the black market. In that case, Kakashi, yes, go and deliver a message to Danzo for me, Gojo Kaigetsu said in a calm tone. Today, if he doesn't come to me and explain this matter clearly, tomorrow I'll take it up with the 4th Hokage. And who knows what unpleasant things might happen then. Understood, Gojo-sama. Go ahead. Gojo Kaigetsu waved his hand, then suddenly seemed to remember something and called out to Kakashi, who was about to leave. While you're at it, go to the Konoha police force and let clan leader Fugaka know that dinner is set for tonight. Keep it casual. He should still be at work. Once again, Gojo Kaigetsu was alone in the empty president's office. He turned his head to look at the setting sun outside the window, feeling a headache coming on. The Uchiha problem. Despite his continuous efforts to mediate, the conflict between the Uchiha clan and Konoha continued to deepen. Murphy's Law states that whatever can go wrong will go wrong. From the moment the second Hokage established the Konoha police force, the seeds of distrust had already been sown. The village versus the Uchiha versus the villagers, and the village versus the villagers. The hawkish voices within the Uchiha clan were growing louder and harder to ignore, to the point where Gojo Kaigetsu could no longer avoid addressing the issue. If the conflict between the Uchiha clan and Konoha ultimately escalates to the point of violence, the village's prosperity will surely crumble. Such a thing absolutely cannot happen. Gojo Kaigetsu tapped his fingers on the armrest of his chair, lost in thought. An article suitable for the current situation with the Uchiha clan began to form in his mind. In that case, let's start by addressing the most fundamental conflicts. Root headquarters asterisk. Bang! Asterisk. A wooden teacup was violently smashed to the ground by Shimura Danzo, his heart filled with uncontrollable rage. That insolent Gojo Kaigetsu dares to speak to me in such a manner. To demand that I go to see him? The audacity! Who does he think he is? Hiruzen? It was no surprise that Shimura Danzo was so infuriated. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage, might have the authority to say, I am the Hokage, but who did this Gojo Kaigetsu think he was? He was nothing. In Danzo's mind, even Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage, was merely a young upstart who had seized the Hokage position from him through luck, largely due to being the husband of the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. But at least Minato's strength and reputation were undeniably Kage level. Gojo Kaigetsu, on the other hand, was merely a chunin, daring to speak so boldly to the shadow of the ninja world. Shimura Danzo? Someone like him, if he were en route, would be nothing more than cannon fodder. What gave him such confidence? Minato? The laws of Konoha have protected him too well. After venting his anger, Danzo fell into a contemplative silence. After a long pause, he muttered to himself, I can't act against him now. He is still someone valued by Minato, and he hasn't shown any signs of betraying Konoha. Danzo furrowed his brows. Gojo Kaigetsu was truly someone who didn't play by the rules. According to the unspoken rules of power, as an elder and veteran of Konoha, it was not demeaning for Gojo Kaigetsu to come to him in private. These are the rules of the game of power. After a simple exchange of interests and the satisfaction of each other's political demands, the matter of funds would be resolved, and he might even allocate more to him. But Gojo Kaigetsu, like a reckless fool, was threatening to escalate the matter to the fourth Hokage. Foolish child, it seems you have no understanding of how the game is played. Although escalating the issue to the fourth Hokage wouldn't cause any actual harm to Danzo, such underhanded actions would damage his dignity. Then I'll meet with you myself. In the shadows, Danzo's expression became increasingly ominous. Gojo Kaigetsu. During his time at the Ninja Academy and the Chunin exams, he was unremarkable, one of those ninja without any notable talent, a small character not worth attention. But ever since the second and third Great Ninja Wars, he had become increasingly active, playing a significant role in Konoha's cultural and economic sectors. With Minato Namikaze's rise to power, he began to shine politically as well. Aside from the military aspect, which was tightly controlled by the major ninja clans, Gojo Kaigetsu had dipped his toes into every field he could. Putting aside his lack of ninja talent, he was undoubtedly a capable individual. But this guy, as a subordinate, he would be very satisfying, but as an opponent, he was quite vexing. It was as if there was a thin, impenetrable veil over Gojo Kaigetsu, making it hard for Danzo to understand him. Gojo Kaigetsu, just what do you desire? Everyone has desires. Some ninjas are obsessed with training, aiming to become renowned powerhouses in the ninja world. Some ordinary ninjas chase fame and fortune, seeking a position on the Hokage's advisory council. Some crave wealth, doing whatever it takes to use their power to amass riches. And some lechers desire all sorts of play. But these basic desires, Danzo couldn't find clear evidence of them in Gojo Kaigetsu. He wasn't fixated on training. He never sought positions from the third, fourth, or even from Danzo himself in the higher echelons of Konoha, According to Root's investigations, he even invested his own money to maintain orphanages, publishing houses, and ration pill shops. And as for women, in his 20s, there hadn't been a single rumor about him in any kunoichi. The most terrifying person is one without desires. For this reason, Danzo once suspected that Gojo Kaigetsu was a spy from another country or a deeply ambitious person with plans to overthrow Konoha. He intended to use this issue of funds to uncover Gojo Kaigetsu's true motives. Danzo was very curious. What mission would make Minato Namikaze, with his conservative nature, allocate an astounding 350 million ryo to Gojo Kaigetsu? If I find even a trace of disloyalty to Konoha in your heart, not even the fourth Hokage can save you. I will personally cleanse Konoha. Report. At this moment, a Root ninja wearing a standard mask knelt at the door of the secret room and reported. Gojo Kaigetsu did not follow his usual route home. After leaving the official publishing house, he headed to the Uchiha clan's territory. Oh! Did he try to conceal his movements? His movements were public, and many people saw him on the way. Danzo's eyes narrowed into slits. Public movements? That's unexpected. But why are you associating with the inherently evil Uchiha? What are you planning, Gojo Kaigetsu? Regardless, I will find out today. Keep a close watch on Gojo Kaigetsu's movements. Once he leaves the Uchiha clan's territory, I will meet with him personally. Gojo-kun, long time no see. Indeed, it has been a while. Clan leader Fugaku. Uchiha Fugaku, born in year 19 of the Konoha calendar, was just barely someone Gojo Kaigetsu could consider a peer. Gojo Kaigetsu greeted Uchiha Fugaku with a smile and a handshake. Uchiha Fugaku was one of the rare, sane individuals in the otherwise mentally unstable Uchiha clan and was relatively moderate, belonging to the Dove faction. In several collaborations, he had suppressed the Hawks within the Uchiha clan on Gojo Kaigetsu's behalf. He loved the Uchiha clan and felt a sense of belonging to Konoha. However, if forced to choose between the clan and the village, he would unhesitatingly choose the former. If it weren't for Gojo Kaigetsu, in the future, under the constant pressure and distrust from Konoha's leadership, Fugaku would eventually choose to fight for the honor of the Uchiha clan. This was something Gojo Kaigetsu understood very well. But before such a situation occurred, Uchiha Fugaku was a trustworthy partner. As they walked side by side towards the Uchiha clan's territory, Fugaku spoke first. Gojo-kun, the voices of dissent. I can barely suppress them anymore. If it weren't for you, I might have already allowed those voices to spread throughout the clan and joined them myself. Fugaku smiled bitterly. The Konoha police force was the pride of the Uchiha clan, but it was also the source of their conflicts with the ordinary villagers and ninjas. Policing is a thankless job. Konoha's public safety was better than that of other villages, but that didn't mean it was perfect. The Konoha police force was housed together with the Konoha prison, constantly dealing with criminals. Over time, whether it was the slander from released criminals or the clan's own harsh enforcement methods, the Uchiha clan faced increasing criticism. Combined with the inherent negative energy associated with the Uchiha, these criticisms were like a fuse, igniting the darkness in the hearts of the Uchiha clan members. Ordinary ninjas envy them, the villagers of Konoha detest them, and the higher-ups of Konoha grant them the police force honor. These three factors form a whirlpool that constantly drags the Uchiha clan deeper into the abyss. Furthermore, since the founding of Konoha, there has always been a sense of vigilance against the Uchiha clan. This vigilance, like an ideological barrier, keeps the Uchiha clan outside the core power structure of Konoha. The perception of the inherently evil Uchiha clan acts as a wall of size, preventing the clan from fully integrating into the village. Konoha needs the Uchiha, yet it never truly accepts them. They do the hardest, most thankless work, considering it an honor, yet they never receive the respect that matches their contributions. Who could possibly accept such treatment? Gojo Kaigetsu sighed. He couldn't outright blame the second Hokage for being wrong. After all, he wasn't Tobirama and couldn't fully understand the prejudices Tobirama held against the Uchiha clan at that time. The closer they got to the Uchiha clan's district, the fewer villagers they encountered on the road. The few who did pass by couldn't hide the fear mixed with disgust in their eyes when they looked at Fugaku, who was dressed in the police force uniform. These looks did not escape the notice of either man. Gojo-kun, did you see that? The way those villagers looked at me. It's truly hard to accept. As the head of the police force, I don't even know what exactly it is I'm protecting. As they finally entered the Uchiha district, Fugaku, using his keen sense, confirmed that the annoying presence of root operatives had stopped following them. It was then that he became more bold in his speech. Gojo-kun, you're a friend I trust. It's also because of your presence that I see a possibility of having an equal dialogue with Konoha's leadership. To be honest, recently there has been growing support within the clan to restore the honor of the Uchiha, with some elders advocating for a coup to secure the Uchiha's rightful place in Konoha. A coup. In other words, a rebellion, using force to cleanse the oppression that had existed since the time of the second Hokage. From the perspective of the Uchiha's hawkish faction, only a coup could ensure the future prosperity of the clan. Otherwise, over time, they would perish under the persecution of the remnants of the third Hokage's influence, just like the Senju clan had. Sai, is it really okay to talk about this with me, the deputy commander of the Uchiha Fugaku? Just from these words alone, the Uchiha could be annihilated. Gojo Kaigetsu half-joked. So, do you have a way to solve the current situation, Gojo-kun? As they arrived at Fugaku's home, Uchiha Mikoto greeted Gojo Kaigetsu with a warm smile, inviting him into the reception room. If I said no, does that mean I won't get to enjoy Mikoto-san's cooking? No. Even as a friend, you should still have this meal. SHHHD. The paper sliding door to the reception room was pushed open by a little boy, about 5 years old. He carefully balanced a tray of tea in one hand as he entered the room. After placing the tray on the table, he quietly retreated. Gojo Kaigetsu, with his 6 eyes, gazed at Uchiha Itachi through the black silk covering his eyes. There's something you've lied to me about, Fugaku. What? Fugaku was momentarily stunned, caught off guard by Gojo Kaigetsu's abrupt comment. If I said I couldn't help, you would probably consider having your son, Uchiha Itachi, join the Konoha Anbu, wouldn't you? This would be the most direct, and in your view, the most effective way to integrate into Konoha, whether as a spy for the Uchiha within the Hokage's ranks, or with the goal of becoming an Uchiha Hokage. It would be the most logical course of action. Gojo Kaigetsu sipped his tea and, with a maturity that belied his age, said, You Fugaku are too indecisive. You think of sacrificing everything for your clan, yet you can't let go of your attachment to the village. How can you accomplish anything like this? This child, he has great talent as a ninja. If I were you, I'd raise him to the point where the Hokage's faction would have no choice but to compromise. This Uchiha Fugaku's pupils constricted. His thoughts, his plans, were completely seen through by Gojo Kaigetsu. Indeed, as Gojo Kaigetsu said, if he could not change the conflicting situation, he would have Itachi join the Konoha Anbu after graduating from the Ninja Academy, making him a spy for the Uchiha clan within Konoha. This way, the Uchiha could clearly see and hear the voices of the higher-ups, allowing them to respond swiftly to any developments. But now, all these thoughts were completely exposed by Gojo Kaigetsu. What scary insight! Uchiha Fugaku didn't dare to imagine what would happen if Gojo Kaigetsu stood on the opposite side. Could their Uchiha Hawk faction's rebellion plan ever succeed? Fugaku fell silent. As a strategist, the best option was undoubtedly to find an opportunity to eliminate Gojo Kaigetsu. But as Gojo Kaigetsu pointed out, Fugaku was too indecisive to fully commit to any side. Clap, clap. Gojo Kaigetsu clapped his hands, breaking the heavy and oppressive atmosphere. All right, enough joking around. In fact, I've already thought of a way to change the Konoha leadership's prejudice against the Uchiha clan. Trust me, Fugaku, no one wants the Uchiha and the Hokage faction to coexist peacefully more than I do. Are you kidding? If any real conflict broke out, the first one to be in trouble would be Gojo Kaigetsu himself. Really? Uchiha Fugaku grew excited. What kind of method? Gojo Kaigetsu habitually tapped the wooden table with his fingers. As you can see, Fugaku, I'm just an ordinary chunin, a minor figure in Konoha's political landscape. But by chance, I happen to have some insight into this kind of issue. There are many ways, the simplest of which is to divert the conflict, shifting the tension between the Uchiha and the Hokage faction to a conflict between the Uchiha and any of the major nations. Of course, Konoha can't afford the cost of war right now, so let's not consider that for now. Gojo Kaigetsu waved his hand, stopping Fugaku from voicing his concerns. Another method is to dissolve the conflict. Let's start by addressing the misunderstanding that ordinary ninjas and villagers have about the Uchiha. Fugaku, let me ask you a question. How many people have a genuine prejudice against the Uchiha based on personal experience? That can't be many. Since I became head of the police force, I've issued strict orders to curb excessive use of force. But the stereotype of the Uchiha has never changed. Snap! Gojo Kaigetsu snapped his fingers. So, most of the prejudice against the Uchiha is just people following the crowd. We need an article, something that can change the perception of the Uchiha both in the other major nations and within the Land of Fire. An article? What kind of article? Uchiha Fugaku furrowed his brow even deeper. He had tried similar methods before, like posting notices on the police force bulletin board, but hardly anyone paid attention. Bring me paper and pen. In the 39th year of Konoha, the village faced its most economically challenging period. The Second Shinobi World War had nearly drained Konoha of its lifeblood. On this day, a difficult case was being handled at the Konoha police force. The case did not involve any powerful ninja. Instead, an elderly woman, nearly 60 years old, was brought in, her expression filled with more shame than sorrow. She had been caught stealing ration pills from a store, and the shopkeeper had reported her to the Konoha police force. The police chief asked, "Old lady, did you really steal the ration pills from the store?" The elderly woman, head lowered, stammered as she replied, "Yes, chief, I did." The police chief continued, "What was your motive for stealing the ration pills? Was it because you were hungry?" "Yes." The old lady raised her head and looked at the police chief, saying, "I was hungry, but more than that, I needed those pills to feed the 3 orphans left behind by the Shinobi World War. They lost their parents in the war and haven't eaten in days. I couldn't just watch them starve to death." Upon hearing the old lady's words, a low murmur of discussion spread throughout the Konoha police force. The police chief spun a kunai in his hand before sternly declaring, "Quiet! Now, I will announce the verdict. Old lady, I must follow the law of Konoha. You have 2 choices. Pay a fine of 10,000 ryo or spend 10 days in jail." The old lady's face was filled with pain and remorse as she responded to the police chief. "Chief, I committed a crime and am willing to accept the punishment. If I had 10,000 ryo, I wouldn't have stolen the ration pills. I'm willing to be jailed for 10 days. But who will take care of the 3 grandchildren who lost their parents in the war?" At this moment, a young, ordinary officer in the police force stood up, bowed to the elderly woman, and said, "Please accept the 10,000 ryo fine." As he spoke, he turned to face the others in the room and took out 1,000 ryo, placing it in front of the old lady. "Everyone, I am just an ordinary member of the Uchiha clan, but I ask each of you to contribute 1,000 ryo for the fine. This is the price we pay for our indifference, a penalty for living in a village where a grandmother must steal ration pills to feed her grandchildren." The room fell silent. After a moment, all the members of the police force stood up quietly, each person sincerely taking out 1,000 ryo and placing it in front of the old lady. Even the police chief was no exception, and by the end, the amount in front of her far exceeded the 10,000 ryo fine. An anonymous ninja later overheard the police chief muttering to himself, "If a person commits a crime for money, they are guilty. If they commit a crime for ration pills, the village is guilty. If they commit a crime for dignity, everyone in the village is guilty." Uchiha Fugaku sat in a daze, holding the article Gojo Kaigetsu had just written, unable to say a word. The in-release chakra stimulated his brain through his sharingan, causing his mind to work frantically. He thought, when was I born in Konoha? It seemed like the 19th year of Konoha. Then who was the police chief in the 39th year of Konoha? If I remember correctly, my father died in the 37th year. and that's when I took over as the police chief. So, the police chief in the 39th year of Konoha was me, Uchiha Fugaku. Uchiha Fugaku nodded in sudden realization. So, I was the one who handled the case of the old lady stealing the ration pills. Huh. But something was off. He didn't recall anything like this happening. It was currently the 51st year of Konoha. The chaos of the 12 years of war had caused many things to be forgotten. He was nearly out of chakra, and his memory center couldn't recall encountering such an event in the 39th year of Konoha. Moreover, in those turbulent times, how could such a situation arise? Everyone knew that in times of chaos, harsh punishments were necessary, with the police force mostly dealing with rough and lawless thugs, locking them up and beating them harshly. Where was there any room for 100 ryo of kindness? Only fists the size of sandbags delivering painful screams and groans. Fugaku glanced at Gojo Kaigetsu, who was sipping tea and chatting cheerfully with his wife, and then lowered his head to reread the article. Could it be? Have I lost part of my memory due to excessive sharingan training over the years? Uchiha Fugaku fell in a deep self-doubt. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. The entire article exuded a strange and eerie vibe, making Fugaku believe that the in-release chakra was affecting his brain. Finally, he looked up at Gojo Kaigetsu again and asked uncertainly, Gojo-kun, I don't quite understand. Uchiha Makoto covered her belly and chuckled softly. Gojo Kaigetsu turned his head, and although his eyes were covered by a black cloth, Fugaku felt as if he could sense his confusion. The unspoken question seemed to ask, I wrote it so clearly, and you still don't understand? You idiot Uchiha. Fugaku felt a bit ashamed. Gojo Kaigetsu had completely seen through him. He couldn't keep up with his thought process anymore. Please enlighten me, Fugaku said earnestly. What don't you understand? Gojo Kaigetsu asked in return. Fugaku pointed to the article, still wet with ink, and said, It mentions the police force in the 39th year, and I was the chief at the time, but I don't recall any such case. Of course you wouldn't remember because I made the whole thing up. What? You made it up? Isn't that lying? So what if it is? Uchiha Fugaku felt as though he was seeing Gojo Kaigetsu for the first time. Of course, lying was common, especially for ninjas who danced on the edge of a blade. What's lying compared to that? But the key point was that this article was supposed to be used to change the other world's prejudice against the Uchiha. How could a beautiful vision built on lies be realized? Gojo Kaigetsu's wise and sparkling eyes seemed to see through the black cloth, piercing Fugaku's mind. You're worried that if the truth is exposed, the Uchiha will be labeled as a clan of liars, plunging us into even deeper despair, right? Yes. That's exactly what I'm worried about, Gojo-kun. Who would remember? Gojo Kaigetsu retorted. Even you, the person involved, had to think for so long. Who would remember events from 12 years ago? But what about Root? What if Shimura Danzo, or the third Hokage, wanted to suppress this Uchiha and deliberately spread the truth? Gojo Kaigetsu's confusion deepened. Think about it. Why is the Uchiha clan so deeply prejudiced against? Because of hearsay. Main POV. When people form a preconceived notion about something, it becomes exceedingly difficult to change that impression. That's exactly why the Uchiha clan now has such a poor reputation among the ordinary ninja and villagers of Konoha. But what if, when this article spreads throughout Konoha, clan leader Fugaku acts swiftly? Before Danzo Shimura makes a move. By arranging actors to pose as witnesses from the Konoha police force of year 39? How would that change the situation? Or what if a similar incident just so happened to occur within the police force on that very day, and word of it spread throughout Konoha? How would the ordinary ninja and villagers, and even the younger generation of major ninja clans who didn't experience that era, then view the Uchiha clan? A series of probing questions left Fugaku overwhelmed, lost in thought about the possibilities Gojo Kaigetsu presented. What was clan leader Fugaku's initial reaction when he first read this article? Just as Fugaku was about to respond, he saw Gojo Kaigetsu raise a finger to his lips, signaling him to remain silent. No need to rush your answer. Let Lady Makoto read it as well. After you've both finished, write down your initial impression of the Konoha police force on a piece of paper and compare notes. Let's see if your thoughts align. Gojo Kaigetsu took the paper with the article and handed it to Uchiha Makoto. A long silence followed. After reading the same text, the couple fell into deep thought. Kindness? The two exchanged glances, understanding the emotions reflected in each other's eyes. Even as members of the Uchiha clan, and despite being witnesses to the events described in the article, their first reaction upon reading it was, "My goodness!" The Konoha police force is truly a warm and compassionate place. The people there must be kind-hearted, amiable, and dedicated to peace and civility. If they, as Uchiha, reacted this way, how much more impactful would it be on those less familiar with that time period? Scary, truly scary. Fugaka gave Gojo Kaigetsu a deep look, feeling a newfound sense of respect for someone who wasn't even a powerful ninja. For the Uchiha, a clan that revered strength, this was the highest form of praise. Acknowledging the fearsome intellect of this man, the air grew heavy with silence as the two men pondered, each lost in their own thoughts. Then, Uchiha Makoto spoke softly, offering her own perspective. If that's the case, why not mention the Uchiha name more frequently in the articles? Wouldn't that reinforce the idea of the Uchiha as a kind-hearted clan? No, that wouldn't work, Lady Makoto. That would come across as too deliberate. Gojo Kaigetsu waved a finger in front of Makoto's face. Changing stereotypes is not something we should overtly bring up. Instead, we should let those who learn about this incident discover the truth through word of mouth. The article only subtly mentions Uchiha once, and that's deliberate. It's a way to hint, to guide people into exploring the true nature of the police force described in the article. It seems as though the Uchiha are not present, yet they are everywhere. When the truth is finally uncovered, when people realize just how deeply they have misunderstood the kind-hearted Uchiha over the years, the guilt will erupt like a volcano. Gojo Kaigetsu spread his arms wide, passionately exclaiming. The deeper the misunderstanding of the Uchiha, the stronger the emotional impact after the truth is revealed. This is the essence of the asterisk reversal technique asterisk. The intensity of Gojo Kaigetsu's words sent shivers down the spines of Fugaku and Makoto, leaving them covered in goosebumps. Even the most vicious ninja has a soft side deep within. And when it comes to misunderstandings about virtues like kindness, nothing stirs people's protective instincts more. At that point, we might even see a protect the Uchiha movement, even if, in the end, the Uchiha still don't secure a seat within Konoha's upper echelon. Their circumstances would be far better than they are now. Even if the 5th Hokage were someone who inherited Danzo's or the 2nd Hokage's mindset. Unless they were willing to completely abandon their stance towards civilians and civilian ninja and enforce a dictatorship like that in Kirigakure, it would be nearly impossible to oppress the Uchiha to the point of their current plight. Gojo Kaigetsu's passionate, emotion-filled words crashed against the Uchiha couple's simple worldview like a tidal wave. Who would have thought it was possible to achieve such a transformation? As ninjas, they were used to changing the status quo with force, to shaping the future world they desired. They had never considered that such a peaceful evolution, such a bloodless way to change deep-seated prejudices between a clan and a village, could exist. This is truly unbelievable. Is it really possible that such a day will come? Makoto's face flushed with excitement, her legs tightening as she couldn't help but imagine the scene Gojo Kaigetsu described. From being the despised Uchiha to the kind-hearted Uchiha. The vision was so beautiful she didn't dare to think further. It will happen, Lady Makoto, I guarantee it. Gojo Kaigetsu brought his hands together in front of his chest, his voice firm, righteous, and resonant. No one understands Konoha better than I do, and no one hopes more than I do that. The Uchiha belong to Konoha, and Konoha belongs to the Uchiha. It was said that the Uchiha clan was a people overflowing with emotion. But now, Fugaka felt that the passion in Gojo Kaigetsu's words made him seem even more like an Uchiha than he did. These eyes should be opened by him. Fugaku was absolutely certain that Gojo Kaigetsu's words came from the heart, sincere and devoid of any selfish interests or deceit. Fugaku didn't dwell on why someone from another clan, like Gojo, would be so invested in the Uchiha and Konoha's conflict. Nor did he choose to question it, as doing so would only tarnish Gojo Kaigetsu's intentions. He is a pure and noble person. Fugaku's voice trembled, choking up slightly. Kaigetsu, the Uchiha are fortunate to have a friend like you. As the head of the Uchiha clan, on behalf of the entire clan, I thank you. Gojo Kaigetsu lowered his arms from their earlier passionate stance, a faint smile forming at the corners of his mouth. 2. The Uchiha clan leader has changed his attitude towards Konoha because of your words. Prosperity 500. Milestone achievement unlocked. The respect of the Uchiha clan. Reward. Dojutsu. 6 eyes. Mastery. You can now perform intricate micromanipulations of chakra within your body, fulfilling the prerequisites for the space-time ninjutsu. Limitless technique. Space-time ninjutsu. Limitless technique. Uninitiated. This technique brings the infinite series condensed within Zeno's paradox of Achilles to reality. This distance can be infinitely reduced, and the limitless technique can realize this concept within a specific area of space and reality. Mastery over space requires extremely precise chakra control. Main POV. Outside the room. Uchiha Itachi, with his hands behind his back, held his breath as he eavesdropped. Hearing footsteps approaching the door, he quickly moved several meters down the hallway. As the sliding door opened, he turned around, pretending to be surprised as he made eye contact with Gojo Kaigetsu, who was wearing a black satin blindfold. Goodbye, Uncle Gojo. Gojo Kaigetsu nodded, acknowledging Uchiha Itachi's polite farewell. Setting aside the future, where Uchiha Itachi becomes a complete lunatic in the original timeline, the current Itachi was still a child whose worldview had yet to be fully formed. There was still hope for him. Talking about someone's future without considering their environment is like playing a trick. Gojo Kaigetsu didn't believe in destiny or the inherent evil of human nature. He believed that the environment in which someone grows up has a significant impact on their future. Therefore, when it came to the current Uchiha Itachi, he neither liked nor disliked him. He just saw him as a normal child and a potential collaborator. Straightening his clothes, Gojo Kaigetsu was eager to return home and study how the infinity technique would function in the ninja world. After Gojo Kaigetsu left the Fugaku residence, Uchiha Itachi cautiously entered the meeting room. Father, mother. The precocious Uchiha Itachi quickly noticed the rare expressions of relaxation and joy on his parents' faces, as if a heavy stone that had been weighing on their hearts had suddenly been lifted, and the dark clouds that had shrouded their minds had been swept away by a giant hand. Did Gojo Kaigetsu bring this about? Is that you, Itachi? What's the matter so late? Uchiha Itachi nodded and curiously asked, I just found it strange. Uncle Gojo's black satin blindfold is like he's hiding his eyes. Could he be a member of our Uchiha clan? Huh. Fugaku and Mikoto exchanged glances and then burst into hearty laughter, like doting parents. If Kaigetsu were really a member of our Uchiha clan, that would be great. Fugaku shook his head. It's normal for ninjas to have their own unique styles. Gojo-kun is a war orphan, a civilian by blood, so it's impossible for him to possess a Kekkei Genkai. As for why he covers his eyes, it might be his unique way of training. Is that so? Uchiha Itachi nodded thoughtfully, though he didn't fully understand. He kept the thought to himself. During his brief eye contact with Gojo Kaigetsu earlier, he had felt as though he had been completely seen through. It was as if all the chakra in his body was exposed to the eyes hidden behind that black satin. He even felt that behind that black satin was a pair of eyes that were no less powerful than, if not surpassing, the sharingan of the Uchiha clan. Why did he have such a strange feeling? Uchiha Itachi didn't understand, but he was deeply puzzled. Under the desolate moonlight, only a few people were moving about the vast Uchiha clan grounds. Gojo Kaigetsu suspected that at this moment, most of the Uchiha clan shinobi had been gathered by the hawkish elders for a meeting somewhere within the clan. Looking up at the bright moon, Gojo Kaigetsu fell into thought. He He often heard rumors that he was a shadow Hokage, but that was just a joke. Konoha currently had 3 Hokages. The nominal Hokage Minato, the one with the greatest influence, the 3rd Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi, and the one who had spies planted all over Konoha, the darkness of the ninja world, Danzo Shimura. Hiruzen Sarutobi's will extended into the Umbu, and there were still many Umbu members who were inclined to obey the 3rd Hokage. They remained vigilant against the Uchiha clan, maintaining policies of covert surveillance and observation. Gojo Kaigetsu walked out of the Uchiha clan grounds, strolling alone down the quiet streets. In the distance, a solitary utility pole stood like a landmark, its top just touching the bottom of the round moon. From afar, it looked as if it were holding up the moon. With his hands in his pockets, Gojo Kaigetsu slowly came to a stop. Through the 6 eyes, he saw the presence of several powerful chakras, each at least at the Jonin level. Is this a display of force? As expected of you, Danzo. Gojo Kaigetsu seemed to be talking to himself as he spoke aloud to the air. The 3rd Hokage and Danzo Shimura protect Konoha from both the light and the shadows, controlling the village and directing its future. Old man politics is unsustainable, leaving Konoha in chaos. At your age, it's time to make way for the next generation, just like the rising and setting of the sun. It's an eternal truth. Why not hand over all power to Minato and retire to your clan for your twilight years? Don't you agree, Danzo? Gojo Kaigetsu's deep, magnetic voice echoed through the empty streets. As he finished speaking, a bandaged, middle-aged man slowly emerged from the shadows. Danzo Shimura. And behind Danzo were 11 masked root ninja. Gojo Kaigetsu, daring to question the Konoha leadership, meeting privately with the Uchiha clan. What is your true purpose? Questioning? Me? Gojo Kaigetsu pointed at himself, exaggeratingly looking around. Come on, Danzo Dano. I'm at least an advisor to the 4th Hokage. It's only natural that I have some opinions on Konoha's personnel changes. You have a way with words, but that won't work on me. Once you reach root, all your pretenses will be stripped away. Gojo Kaigetsu. I now suspect you are involved in a secret plot to overthrow Konoha. Come with me to Root. Take him. Bring him back to Root. The Root ninja behind Danzo exchanged glances through their masks, then moved with precision, forming a circle to surround Gojo Kaigetsu and advancing step by step. Danzo's thoughts were simple. Gojo Kaigetsu was just a civilian chunin, without a powerful clan backing him. Only the civilian-born Hokage Minato as his support. If he secretly took him away for interrogation, nothing would happen. Hiruzen would understand, and Minato would defer to Hiruzen. They wouldn't do anything to him. Meanwhile, Danzo could fully analyze and decipher the mystery of Gojo Kaigetsu. As the darkness of the ninja world, he couldn't tolerate the existence of someone as enigmatic and revolutionary as Gojo Kaigetsu. Gojo Kaigetsu's smile widened, his expression a mix of amusement and disbelief as he asked, Danzo, are you sure you want to do this? Even if it means risking war with the Uchiha clan tonight? What Uchiha? Danzo Shimura's eyebrows furrowed slightly, but he followed his subordinate's gaze to a distant utility pole. His cloudy, aged eyes suddenly contracted, and his body stiffened. He saw, with a giant round moon as the backdrop. In the cold wind, the light blue ninja robes fluttered. Dozens of sharingan, each with varying numbers of tomo, gleamed with a crimson and icy light, locking onto him, Danzo Shimura. I underestimated you, Gojo Kaigetsu. Danzo Shimura's lips curled into an ugly, forced smile. The root shinobi behind him tensed, stepping back to shield their leader. The way they looked at Gojo now was filled with apprehension and caution. That fleeting glimpse just now revealed the presence of Fugaku Uchiha, the head of the Uchiha clan, standing atop the power pole. The clan leader's involvement carried significant weight. Unless tonight was meant to be the final breaking point, Danzo couldn't afford to push this any further. Danzo's suspicion grew. What exactly was Gojo planning? How could he have gained such support from the Uchiha clan? Could it be a promise to overthrow the Hokage? Dark, Twisted thoughts began to take root in Danzo's mind. Without addressing Danzo's suspicions, Gojo Kaigetsu spoke in a deep, commanding voice. Today, we stand here, on the land forged by the Senju and Uchiha clans. This is Konoha, a village nourished by the blood and honor of our ancestors. Behind me is the face of the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, the god of shinobi, the very light of Konoha. Danzo frowned, unsure of where this was going. Why bring up the first Hokage now? His will is the direction in which I move forward. The will of Hashirama? Who do you think you are? The will of Hashirama is not something that you... Gojo Kaigetsu cut him off, his tone sharp and unforgiving. Konoha belongs to all its shinobi. One village, one rule, one Hokage. Old man, Gojo's voice rang out sternly. Look at what you're doing, Danzo. Shadow politics, openly targeting the Hokage's advisors, trying to drive a wedge between Konoha and the Uchiha clan. What are your true intentions? Who's pulling your strings? Do you even recognize the authority of the fourth Hokage? Do you respect the legacy of the first Hokage? Isn't it you, Danzo, who's truly attempting to overthrow Konoha? Danzo's mouth opened slightly, but he couldn't find the words to respond. Though there was nothing physically present, he felt an overwhelming pressure bearing down on him. To oppose the will of Hashirama? That was a charge no one in Konoha would dare to shoulder. Becoming Hokage meant upholding the will of fire, the guiding principle passed down by Hashirama. If Danzo dared to challenge this now, he'd be seen as an enemy of everything Konoha stood for. This was a topic that could not be debated. Danzo chose silence, avoiding the sensitive subject. The roots of the village grow deep into the darkness, working to eliminate anything that threatens Konoha's prosperity. That is my will, the will of the root, everything for the village. Danzo knew that much of what he did couldn't withstand the light of day. But when it came to loyalty to Konoha, even someone as shadowy as him could stand tall. He expected this declaration to suppress Gojo Kaigetsu, but instead, it provoked an even fiercer response. Gojo's voice rose sharply, filled with righteous anger. Your will? Danzo, do you even hear yourself? Every official organization in Konoha is meant to uphold the will of Hashirama. It should only be an extension of his vision. Look at your root. If the first Hokage were here right now, would these root shinobi follow your will or his? Of course they would. Danzo started to assert his loyalty to Hashirama, but stopped short. Because the curse of the tongue, eradication. The members of Root were handpicked by Danzo, selected for their unique abilities and darkness within their hearts. Stripped of humanity, they were nothing more than perfect tools by shinobi standards. Danzo held absolute control over their lives. Even if Hashirama were resurrected, they would only obey Danzo's orders. Gojo Kaigetsu had exposed the fatal flaw in his plans. Am I really on a path completely opposed to the first Hokage's? Danzo momentarily doubted himself, something rare for the darkness of the shinobi world. But the seasoned veteran quickly snapped out of it, responding with a cold sneer. I won't argue with you on this, Gojo Kaigetsu. Whose side are you really on, and what is your true agenda? The fourth? The third? The Uchiha? Or are you a spy from another village? I've already sensed the darkness within your heart. Don't think you can fool me with your talk of the first Hokage. Don't think you can get away with this. Whose side? Gojo Kaigetsu shook his head, feigning disappointment, his tone dripping with mockery. Some are loyal to the third Hokage, seeking stability. Some, like you, crave power and control, supporting the dark machinations of Root. Others align with the fourth Hokage, hoping for swift rewards and advancement. Then there are those who despise what Konoha has become and wish to see it destroyed. Danzo listened intently, his heart racing, awaiting Gojo Kaigetsu's next words. Despite his wariness, he had to admit this man was different from ordinary shinobi. He wasn't a superficial or dull opponent. What is his choice? And I, Gojo Kaigetsu, have always been steadfast in my loyalty to Konoha. Whether it's the fourth Hokage, the third Hokage, you, or even the Uchiha clan standing in my way, I will eliminate any threat to Konoha. My heart and actions are as clear as the bright moon. Everything I do is for Konoha. I have a dream to make Konoha great again. Danzo Shimura, do you have that kind of resolve? Though it was night, though his eyes were shrouded in black cloth. At this moment, Danzo felt that Gojo Kaigetsu's eyes shone like the blazing sun, impossible to look directly at. He felt like a creature of darkness being dragged into the light, his soul screaming in agony. Danzo instinctively turned his head away, unable to meet Gojo Kaigetsu's intense gaze. For Konoha? If that were true, it would explain all the mysteries surrounding Gojo Kaigetsu. He and I were the same type of shinobi. Danzo realized this with a strange sense of clarity. He didn't question Gojo's words any further. The vow he had just made was genuine. He truly would eliminate anyone who stood against Konoha. Gojo Kaigetsu's conviction was so strong that it felt as though anyone opposing Konoha was directly attacking his very being. Shimura Danzo couldn't help but feel a sense of respect as he faced Gojo Kaigetsu. Danzo had always believed that everything he did was for the sake of Konoha, but he never thought of Konoha as an extension of his own life. Gojo Kaigetsu, however, had achieved something that Danzo couldn't. With a gruff voice, Danzo said, "Fine, I'll trust you this once. But if I find out you've done anything to harm Konoha, you won't escape my wrath. You have your resolve, and I have mine. Today, you've passed the test. Let's move out." Danzo declared his retreat, attempting to maintain his dignity, as he led his root operatives away from the Uchiha compound. On the way back to their headquarters, one of the root ninjas cautiously asked, "Danzo Dano, we haven't figured out the details of the 350 million Ryo plan. Should we retrieve the documents from the Hokage's office?" 350 million Ryo. Danzo narrowed his eyes, recalling what Gojo Kaigetsu had mentioned earlier. "It's just 350 million Ryo. It's not worth the risk of crossing the fourth Hokage. Send the funds to Gojo Kaigetsu tomorrow. I want to see what he and the fourth are really planning." Danzo wasn't truly concerned with the amount. He had controlled the route for years and had seen far more money. In the black market, the bounty for a Jonin's head was roughly 35 million Ryo, depending on their reputation, unique jutsu, village, and the employer's level of hatred. The bounty could go even higher. 350 million Ryo was just the price of 10 Jonin heads. Danzo had been using this as an excuse, a pretext to challenge the fourth Hokage and Gojo Kaigetsu. Now that he had achieved his goal, all that remained was to wait for Gojo Kaigetsu's next move. 3. Shimura Danzo, intimidated by your strength, has reined in his darker impulses and canceled some secret plans. Prosperity 50. This limitless technique is useless. Back at home, Gojo Kaigetsu fiddled with the limitless technique for a while, realizing that the basic level of the technique was utterly ineffective. Even with a kunai pressed against his neck, the infinitesimal space didn't activate. He lifted the hem of his shirt, looking at his well-defined 8-pack abs, trying to figure out how Maharaga's sealing technique was integrated into his body. His chakra circulated throughout his body, and he could sense an unusual chakra sealed within him. But that was all. Extracting Maharaga's chakra was still too advanced for Gojo Kaigetsu at this stage. According to the system, Maharaga's chakra can be extracted, which means I'm now a Maharaga Jinchuriki? Skipping ahead, maybe in the future, I could develop a relationship with Maharaga similar to Naruto and Kurama, unlocking the Maharaga chakra mode, or even the gravitational particle mode. Although he had used his words to repel Danzo, like any true ninja, he wished his fists could do the talking. Deep down, Gojo Kaigetsu was committed to peace. He preferred to use diplomatic means to bring everyone to the negotiating table and discuss the future of the ninja world together, focusing on long-term development. But in the world of ninja, strength is everything. Powerful techniques are the foundation for making someone like Danzo speak rationally. If I hadn't secured the Uchiha as a strong ally today, that guy Danzo might have really broken the rules and dragged me off to the root. Power. I need more power. Gojo Kaigetsu realized that the potential of his current body, despite having a chakra capacity barely reaching the level of a Jonin, was limited in its ability to learn taijutsu, ninjutsu, or jinjutsu. The body's limit was that of a chunin at best. To improve his strength and protect himself in the chaotic ninja world, he could only rely on the system. Military, culture, politics, economy. Konoha's military matters were too advanced for a mere chunin like him, and his political influence was similarly limited by his rank. Aligning the Uchiha clan firmly on his side was already the extent of his current capabilities. To advance further, he would need to wrestle power from the third Hokage and other remnants of the old era. So, the only immediate changes he could effect were in culture and economy. In that case, I'll have to push the workers at the printing factory a little harder. 1 week later, a weary Samui finally arrived at the gates of Konoha. Having mastered the Cloud Village's secret stealth techniques, she had little trouble passing through the checks at Konoha's entrance. The Hyuga clan ninjas stationed at the gate lingered on Samui for a few extra seconds, particularly on her impressive chest, before allowing her to pass. Outside of wartime, the presence of the byakugan allowed Konoha to maintain relatively relaxed entry policies. Compared to villages like Kirigakure or Sunagakure, Konoha was indeed a beacon of civilization in the ninja world. As long as someone's chakra levels weren't dangerously high, they were free to enter and exit Konoha. Arrogant Konoha. They rely on the byakugan for such lax security. Konoha's defenses are practically full of holes, Samui thought, silently evaluating Konoha's defenses. The Konoha ninja would never suspect that Kumogakure had developed a countermeasure to the byakugan's abilities, a stealth technique specifically designed to avoid detection. But why are they taking so long? Samui noticed something fell off under the scrutiny of the two ninjas. But the Cloud Village's secret techniques don't fail. Forcing a cool expression, Samui asked, "Excuse me, is something wrong, Ninja-san? Miss, may I ask your name?" GOJO AI. Samui calmly responded, using the identity crafted for her mission by Reikage A and the Reikage Advisory Council. Their instructions were clear. Even in a covert operation, as a member of the Cloud Village, you cannot start from the lowest rung like a coward. According to our intelligence, the fourth Hokage of Konoha, Namikaze Minato, has a close friend and advisor named Gojo Kaigetsu. In addition to these roles, Gojo Kaigetsu is also the Minister of Culture for Konoha and the Vice Principal of the Ninja Academy, holding significant respect among ordinary ninjas. But this ninja, despite his position, is only a chunin. During both the Second and Third Great Ninja Wars, he stayed in the rear and didn't participate in any battles, making him undoubtedly a weak ninja. At that time, after hearing the analysis from his advisory team, Reikage A folded his arms, a dismissive snort escaping his lips as he offered his critique. That fourth Hokage, Namikaze Minato, doesn't even seem like a real leader. Has Konoha Village fallen so low that it's all about favoritism now? Or has Konoha declined to the point where even a chunin can hold such a prestigious position? In the shinobi world, strength is everything. Even for administrative roles that rarely require physical force, someone in the position of advisor or deputy headmaster of the Ninja Academy should at least be a Tokubetsu Jonin. No wonder Reikage held such disdain. So, what's the plan? The plan is this dash. The chief advisor of Reikage's council flashed a cunning smile. Samui's physical attributes make her one of our most promising spies. Her talent in ninjutsu is equally remarkable. Techniques that typically take years for others to master, like suppressing one's chakra signature, took her just a week. With this potential, we shouldn't treat her as just another pawn. Even though Samui had mentally prepared herself for this, hearing herself referred to in such a way still stirred an uncomfortable feeling deep within. We plan to infiltrate the highest ranks of Konoha, with Samui becoming our most elite spy. She'll establish a covert network and possibly even set up our Black Ops division within Konoha. The chief advisor slapped his hand down on a photograph of Gojo Kaigetsu. Our target is Gojo Kaigetsu. According to our intel, Gojo Kaigetsu is a shinobi of common birth, a war orphan. His family likely migrated to the Land of Fire from a neighboring country decades ago. With this background, we can create an identity for Samui that will allow her to approach him. Samui, once you infiltrate Konoha, your name will be Gojo AI, a distant relative of Gojo Kaigetsu from a branch family that settled in another land decades ago. Approaching him too quickly could draw the attention of Konoha's Umbu. You must act as though you stumbled upon your connection to Gojo Kaigetsu by accident, gradually becoming acquainted with him. Although you are an outsider, you might face an intensive background check. However, with your mastery of chakra suppression techniques, you should pass without issue. From there, you can naturally assume the role of a member of the Gojo clan and embed yourself beside Gojo Kaigetsu, gathering intelligence for our village. The chief advisor's smile grew more enigmatic. Ultimately, you could even marry Gojo Kaigetsu, securing the highest level of trust. And who knows? Perhaps you might even turn him into an ally for us. Do you understand now, Samui? Samui remained silent, standing before Raikage A and his senior advisors, facing their expectant gazes. Beneath her bold exterior, her heart had already grown cold. But for her village, personal feelings could be sacrificed. A shinobi is nothing more than a tool. She nodded firmly. I will flawlessly complete the infiltration mission. Back to the present. The two gatekeeping shinobi exchanged glances. Gojo. That's a rare surname. It sounds familiar. Do you remember anything? Hyuga? Idiot Gojo is the name of Kaigetsu. Ah, of course it's teacher Kaigetsu. You really forgot your own teacher's surname? Honestly, you're hopeless. The Hyuga shinobi sighed, shaking his head. The gatekeeper who had forgotten seemed quite young. As it happened, he had been a student of Gojo Kaigetsu during his time as a regular instructor at the Ninja Academy. Samui took note of every word they said. Her eyes sparkled with realization. She hadn't expected to encounter such a perfect opportunity to connect with Gojo Kaigetsu. To be fair, Konoha's shinobi were careless, not at all concerned with the confidentiality of their conversations. Or perhaps, after enjoying so many years of peace following the Third Shinobi War, Konoha had forgotten even the most basic principles of being a shinobi. Samui's finely crafted, aloof face took on a puzzled expression, convincingly portraying the awkwardness of a civilian in the presence of shinobi. Excuse me, shinobi-san, but what are you talking about? Are there others with the surname Gojo in Konoha? Yes, there are. The female shinobi nodded. But they're part of our Konoha Gojo clan. You're from the land of flowers, so although the surname is uncommon, it should be. The Hyuga ninja rolled his eyes and tugged at the female shinobi's sleeve, whispering into her ear, "Did you forget? Back when teacher Gojo introduced himself, he mentioned that he's a migrant from the land of flowers." Meanwhile, at the printing factory, Gojo Kaigetsu reclined in his chair, sipping on a fizzy drink with a laid-back attitude. He was in high spirits. This batch of amai was the final one. The previous prints had already been distributed to warehouses across the 4 great nations, and nearly all the influential nobles had been persuaded to support the venture. When the time comes and Gojo Kaigetsu gives the word, these nobles will be seen at high society events with copies of amai in hand. Soon enough, the merchants will notice, and the demand will skyrocket. Once the income of other hidden villages plummets, and they trace the source of the problem, it'll be too late. Asterisk amai activates. Gojo Kaigetsu muttered to himself in his office, caught up in his excitement. Even Danzo had been lying low these past few days, not stirring up any more trouble. The village's prosperity had only increased. But then his smile froze. He jolted upright in his chair. System messages. 1. A mysterious spy from Kumogakure has infiltrated Konoha. Prosperity -11. 2. The mysterious spy from Kumogakure has completed a reconnaissance of Konoha. Prosperity -11. 3. The mysterious spy from Kumogakure has established initial trust with Konoha shinobi. Prosperity -11. Gojo Kaigetsu. ? Wait a minute, what is this? A Kumogakure spy. With his brain running at full speed, enhanced by chakra, Gojo Kaigetsu quickly started piecing things together from the original timeline. If I'm not mistaken, the only time Kumogakure ever infiltrated Konoha was during the alliance ceremony, when a Kumogakure shinobi attempted to kidnap Hinata. Gojo Kaigetsu frowned, certain that his memory was accurate. In that case, there's only one explanation. His presence had caused a butterfly effect, altering the timeline. Kumogakure had sent a spy into Konoha earlier than expected, with an unknown objective. Based on the system's 3 notifications: infiltration, reconnaissance, and establishing trust, could it be that the Kumogakure spy intended to remain in Konoha long-term? Typically, if the goal were just to complete a mission, would there be a need to build trust with Konoha shinobi? Gojo Kaigetsu wasn't sure, but it was possible the spy planned to use this trust to get close to high-profile figures for assassination. Operating within the borders of Konoha for an extended period, getting close to and possibly assassinating high-profile figures. Gojo Kaigetsu felt a sense of urgency. He couldn't allow such a dangerous spy to operate within Konoha. It was crucial to identify and eliminate this threat as quickly as possible. Imagine the scenario. A 15-year-old prodigy like Sasori was able to assassinate the 3rd Kazekage. Ninja tactics can't be easily classified by rank alone, whether it's Kage, Jonin, or Chunin. Without knowing what deadly techniques the shinobi from the Hidden Cloud Village might possess, the situation was extremely dangerous. There's an old saying, while a thief can hide for 1,000 days, no one can guard against a thief for that long. If the spy managed to establish roots in Konoha, it would be incredibly difficult to root them out. And if, by chance, Minato or Kushina were to die at the hands of a Cloud Ninja spy, everything would be ruined. Such a scenario was absolutely unacceptable. He vowed to hunt down and capture the spy infiltrating Konoha. Gojo Kaigetsu declared his intention. But how did a Cloud Village ninja evade the byakugan of the Hyuga clan? Konoha has long been able to catch a large number of spies from the major nations each year, thanks to the byakugan. Ordinary people, without chakra, would struggle to access any sensitive information even if they did infiltrate Konoha. If my printing factory was involved, it would have been more obvious, and it would have been targeted before it even became significant. So, has the Cloud Village figured out a way to bypass the byakugan? The byakugan has always been one of the best methods for detecting enemy ninjas. If someone found a way to counter it, Konoha's intelligence-gathering advantage would be severely diminished. Modern ninja warfare relies heavily on information intelligence is key. No, something's not right. If the Cloud Village had really cracked the byakugan, Konoha's prosperity wouldn't just drop slightly, it would have plummeted. But there's been no drastic change. The rise and fall of Konoha's prosperity is absolute. This means that bypassing the byakugan must be extremely difficult, or it could be a unique bloodline limit that only a few individuals possess. Thinking along these lines, Gojo Kaigetsu felt the pressure ease a bit. If that's the case, it's much more manageable. He was just about to use the unique information transfer methods of the Umbu to summon his loyal and capable subordinate, Kakashi. But as he reached out to do so, he noticed through his black blindfold that Kakashi's chakra was rapidly approaching. A mutual journey, it seems. In a few moments, Kakashi was kneeling on one knee, his head lowered as he reported from behind Gojo Kaigetsu. Gojo-sama, I have urgent news. Oh, Kakashi, what is it? This afternoon, a woman claiming to be related to you arrived in Konoha. She's been placed in the village's guest house. Would you like to meet her? Huh? A relative of mine? Gojo Kaigetsu was taken aback. He was reincarnated into this world, inheriting all the memories of his previous life when he was around 14 years old. But as for relatives, he had never heard of any. The Gojo family was an ordinary civilian family in the ninja world. For generations, none had possessed the talent to become a ninja. This was the first time Gojo Kaigetsu had ever been referred to in such a way. Being called relative gave him an odd sense of being an influential figure. Gojo Kaigetsu asked casually, "My relative, is she a civilian or a ninja? How is it confirmed?" When she entered Konoha, a Hyuga clan ninja used to be a Kugan to investigate her. She has some chakra, but not nearly enough to become a ninja. She claims to be from the land of flowers, and some of her experiences align with the past of your parents. Well, that's quite a surprising reunion. Gojo Kaigetsu squinted. Could there really be such a coincidence? The system had just alerted him to the presence of a Cloud Village spy, and now a long-lost relative from the GOJO family suddenly appeared. What's her name? GOJO AI. Take me to see her. Samui had settled into the guest house in Konoha. Upon learning that she might be related to GOJO Kaigetsu, the guest house immediately arranged for her to stay in the best room available. A soft bed, a view of the bustling nightlife, a cool evening breeze, and a pleasant climate. These were all things Samui couldn't experience back in the Hidden Cloud Village. So, this is the environment of Konoha. How do their ninjas train in such a relaxed environment? They don't seem to have any sense of urgency. Samui sat on the soft, white-sheeted bed, unconsciously rubbing her slightly sore shoulders. After spending a day walking around Konoha, she had firmly memorized the layout and the locations of several important buildings. The Hokage's office, the Ninja Academy, and a large, unfamiliar printing factory. The prosperous Konoha seemed to have many things that Samui couldn't fully understand. She didn't resist these new things. Instead, she quickly integrated them into her life. According to Reikage-sama's orders, she would be stationed in Konoha long-term as a hidden cloud operative. The more she blended in, the more effective she could be. Of course, she hadn't forgotten her most direct order to investigate the Kusa publishing house that was selling forbidden books to the Hidden Cloud Village. These books had corrupted the Eight Tails Jinchuriki, Killer Bees, Ninja Way. Reikage couldn't tolerate it and wanted the publisher to pay in blood. But after spending an entire day searching, Samui hadn't found any trace of the High Academy publishing house. I'll have to continue looking tomorrow. Samui switched hands and began massaging the other shoulder. But if I approach GOJO Kaigetsu too quickly, won't that arouse his suspicion? After all, I'm a relative he's never met before. If he chooses not to see me, I'll have to rely on my own efforts to gather intelligence in Konoha. That would take significantly more time and energy to achieve the same results. This mission might be one from which I can never return to the Hidden Cloud. Samui sighed deeply. No matter how much one trains, it's impossible to completely eliminate emotions and become a mere tool for carrying out tasks. Alone in a foreign land, isolated within an enemy village, this mission was a psychological trial for her as much as a physical one. If it were given to a less loyal, less determined ninja, they might not be able to withstand the loneliness. They might even fully integrate into Konoha, severing ties with the Hidden Cloud. But I, Samui, a jonin of the Hidden Cloud trained by the Third Reikage, will never let personal feelings shake my resolve to complete this mission. Samui murmured, repeatedly reinforcing her ninja way in her heart. At that moment, a knock came from the door. Knock, knock, knock. Excuse me, is Miss GOJO AI inside? Easier. Samui took a deep breath, adjusting herself to the best possible state, then turned her gaze toward the door. Come in. In her line of sight, the door handle slowly turned. Entering the room was a man with white hair and a black silk blindfold covering his eyes. Despite the slight differences from the intelligence photos, Samui recognized him instantly. GOJO Kaigetsu. The gaze was mutual. As Samui studied GOJO Kaigetsu, he was also scrutinizing her, this woman highly suspected of being a spy from the Hidden Cloud. From the moment he laid eyes on her, GOJO Kaigetsu confirmed her identity. Samui, a ninja from the Hidden Cloud. And the reason was simple. She was simply too impressive. Her physical presence was overwhelming, rivaling even the strongest, like Tsunade in her prime. It was clear that Samui possessed extraordinary potential. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, GOJO Kaigetsu might have doubted that someone so exceptional could come from the Hidden Cloud, a place known more for its rugged warriors than for producing such a formidable and captivating individual. Her features were delicate yet cold, her gaze as sharp as a blade, seemingly judging everything around her. She had short, golden hair that brushed her shoulders, and her pale skin stood out, creating a striking visual contrast. Every subtle movement and expression spoke of a calm and composed female ninja. Each detail perfectly matched GOJO Kaigetsu's ideals. But more than that, GOJO Kaigetsu cleared his throat, curling his fingers slightly as he pushed aside the unusual thoughts. His original plan had been to capture the hidden cloud spy and interrogate her thoroughly. But seeing that it was Samui, a woman from the hidden cloud, his plan began to change. A spy? She doesn't know I'm aware she's a spy. I can use this to my advantage, feeding her false information to mislead the hidden cloud. Later, I could mix in some real intel to gauge the hidden cloud's reaction through her response. She's not just a spy. She's a valuable asset I can exploit. Gojo Kaigetsu would never admit that his change in plans had anything to do with how well Samui's appearance aligned with his tastes. Of course, he couldn't make his interest too obvious. By this point, she was likely already a seasoned ninja. If his performance was too clumsy, she might see right through him. Having made up his mind, Gojo Kaigetsu decided to gradually win Samui over. But first, he needed to understand what had caused this unexpected change in events, leading to Samui's early arrival in Konoha. Through the black blindfold, his special technique, Six Eyes, quietly activated, allowing Gojo Kaigetsu to see the hidden 1.5 units of chakra within Samui's body. Ah, I see. It seems she's using some secret technique to conceal herself from the byakugan, but it can't hide her from Six Eyes. It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Gojo. My name is Gojo Kaigetsu. Gojo Kaigetsu flashed a gentle smile that could melt the coldest hearts. He walked toward Samui, who had risen from the bed, and shook her hand briefly yet politely. So, it really is him, Gojo Kaigetsu? The intel wasn't wrong. Gojo Kaigetsu is indeed just a middle-ranking ninja. It's really you, Kaigetsu. Samui's refined, cold face showed the complex emotions of someone reuniting with a long-lost family member. Her voice trembled slightly, and her right hand slowly reached out as if wanting to touch Gojo Kaigetsu's face but stopped short, respecting the gap between their supposed identities. This woman's acting is... Gojo Kaigetsu had always believed that a kunoichi's acting skills were proven by whether they could deceive male ninjas while undercover. If they could, they were true masters of their craft. But Samui's performance made him reconsider his assumptions. If it weren't for his special eyes and the knowledge he had, he might have believed that Samui truly was his relative. Well, while I'm not opposed to finding a relative from the land of flowers, Miss Gojo, we've never met before. I've been in Konoha since I can remember. In this case, how can we be sure we share the same bloodline? As expected, he's not easy to deceive. Samui had anticipated this reaction and immediately recited the information the hidden cloud had gathered about Gojo Kaigetsu's parents. The details matched perfectly. Gojo Kaigetsu listened, taken aback by how well the information fit, making it almost impossible to refute the claim. Firstly, the Gojo family was just an ordinary civilian family, without any special bloodline techniques to confirm identities. Secondly, Samui had crafted the identity of a distant relative, making her story difficult to dismiss. It was like implanting a memory of a non-existent family member. If Gojo Kaigetsu had been from a prestigious clan, the hidden cloud wouldn't have risked such a bold move to make contact with him. But Gojo Kaigetsu was perceived as a middle-ranking ninja who had risen through connections, a fact deeply ingrained in the hidden cloud's strategic mindset. I see. Miss Gojo, it seems you are my relative. Gojo Kaigetsu clapped his hands together as if struck by a sudden realization. He even wiped at his eyes, pretending to brush away non-existent tears. He spread his arms wide, as if inviting this supposed long-lost relative into a heartfelt embrace. If I don't take advantage of this situation, I'm no better than Danzo. Samui blushed slightly, a momentary flicker of hesitation in her eyes. Although she had anticipated that going undercover in another village would require personal sacrifices, she hadn't expected it to happen so quickly. Deep down, Samui sighed but quickly adjusted her mindset. She also opened her arms, ready to embrace Gojo Kaigetsu warmly. She knew that her figure, far surpassing that of her peers, held a particular allure for a grown male ninja. Everything is for the mission. Using my charm to lower Gojo Kaigetsu's guard is necessary. Only then can I fully integrate into Konoha, gather intelligence, and support the hidden cloud in the event of war. Samui believed that while a Jonin's impact in war might be limited, Infiltrating the enemy's leadership as a mole could be as powerful as having an elite warrior on the battlefield. Gojo Kaigetsu closed his eyes in contentment, resisting the urge to make any inappropriate sounds. After a long pause, Gojo Kaigetsu finally took Samui's hand with a look of deep affection. Since you're part of the Gojo family, tomorrow I'll introduce you to my work. Is that really okay? But when I entered the village, I heard them say that you're a ninja now, Kaigetsu. Isn't your work related to being a ninja? I'm just an ordinary person. Is it really okay for me to get involved in ninja business? This is happening way too fast. Samui had anticipated many possibilities, but she hadn't expected Gojo Kaigetsu to invite her into the inner workings of Konoha so quickly. As expected, he's just a mediocre ninja who got his position due to his connections with the 4th Hokage. It won't be long before I can completely control him and use him for the benefit of Kumogakure. Samui thought to herself. If Gojo Kaigetsu really was just a mediocre ninja, then her subsequent plans could proceed smoothly. As for whether Gojo Kaigetsu had seen through her disguise and was deliberately luring her in, Samui was confident that her chakra-suppressing techniques and her acting skills were far beyond what an ordinary chunin like Gojo Kaigetsu could detect. This game between the hunter and the prey, she was sure she would be the winner. Of course, it's no problem. Gojo Kaigetsu acted like the stereotypical overconfident fool, eager to flaunt the power he had acquired. A ninja? So what? I've gotten to where I am today, all because of my own intelligence. Gojo Kaigetsu tapped his temple with a finger, his tone mysterious. My business is actually a publishing house. Hey, publishing house? Samui's breath hitched for a moment, as if she was both puzzled and had suddenly found an answer. From the way her pupils dilated uncontrollably, Gojo Kaigetsu had a pretty good idea of why she was really here. Piecing together the clues he had, Gojo Kaigetsu formulated a theory. Given the recent decline in sales of contraband books in Kumogakure, it was likely that selling these books to Kumogakure had been discovered. Because a significant figure's child was affected, they had sent a kunoichi like Samui to infiltrate Konoha and eliminate the publisher. At least, that's what it looked like right now. But Samui was too skilled, and the higher-ups in Kumogakure were probably planning for her to remain in Konoha long-term, perhaps even to gain a larger advantage by posing as a distant relative. So, they really think I'm just some easily manipulated fool, huh? Beneath the dark fabric covering his eyes, Gojo Kaigetsu's gaze turned cold. True, he enjoyed the kind of negotiations where the woman involved underestimated him beforehand. But in a formal situation, such disdain was a direct insult to his pride as a ninja. But that's fine too. The more they underestimate him, the greater the gap in information, and eventually, Gojo Kaigetsu's gaze swept up and down Samui with ill intentions, thinking, when the tables turn, it'll be your loyalty to Kumogakure that's humiliated, not mine. Yes, it's a very special publishing house. It's a secret business of mine because of its sensitive nature. I can only entrust it to those I deeply trust. Your arrival, AI, is a big help to me. Samui instinctively crossed her arms over her chest. In that brief moment, she had a strange feeling that Gojo Kaigetsu had completely seen through her. It felt as though, beneath that dark fabric, there wasn't the warm gaze of a newfound relative, but rather the calculating eyes of someone ready to devour her whole. Is that so? Kaigetsu-kun, you're really impressive. I'll leave it all to you then, because honestly, I don't know what I'd do on my own in Konoha. Samui softened her voice, making it as gentle as possible, but the words were insincere. Handling so much must be exhausting for you. What an idiot, she thought bitterly. A publishing house. That's not what she was after. But for now, she had to proceed cautiously, gradually gaining Gojo Kaigetsu's trust until he began sharing more sensitive political and military information about Konoha. If she performed well at that publishing house, surely Gojo Kaigetsu would trust her more. Stay calm, Samui. You've already successfully made contact with Gojo Kaigetsu. That's a solid start. They exchanged a wordless glance, but the dark fabric between them prevented any real connection. No matter how expressive her eyes were, they might as well have been aimed at a blind man at least. that's how Samui felt. Finding the situation dull, she abandoned her plan to subtly flirt with Gojo Kaigetsu. Silence settled over them, until Gojo Kaigetsu finally broke it. "Hey, my house is pretty spacious. You're welcome to stay there. If you get tired from work, you can just rest at home, no problem at all. You wouldn't want to keep staying in the Konoha guest house, right?" Gojo Kaigetsu leaned forward just slightly. Samui stiffened, easily catching the implications in his words. Her already low opinion of the young Konoha politician sank further. This guy wasn't just incompetent, he was also a lecher. She uneasily rubbed her arms, forcing a strained smile. No, that wouldn't be necessary, Kaigetsu-kun. I wouldn't want to trouble you. I've still got some money left. I was planning to find some time tomorrow to rent a place in Konoha." "I see. Even though you're my relative." "Well, okay. I'll respect your choice." Gojo Kaigetsu pulled back, his tone carrying an unintended note of distance, which only made Samui more uncertain. Did I mess up the pacing? Was I too conservative? Or has the atmosphere in Konoha become so open that... At the Namake's residence. "Ah, Kaigetsu, you're finally here?" Namake's Minato, donning an apron, had taken on the role of a model house husband, bustling between the kitchen and dining room, bringing out dish after dish of hot food. "Really, Kaigetsu? Why so late?" Uzumaki Kushina, known as the red-hot habanero, complained. "It's pretty rude to show up this late as a guest." "Ah, sorry. I got held up by something." Gojo Kaigetsu pulled out a chair and sat down without hesitation. They both knew Kushina was just teasing. His relationship with Minato was as close as brothers, and Kushina treated him like a younger brother herself. "Don't say that, Kushina." Minato removed his apron and explained for Gojo Kaigetsu. Today, Kaigetsu's relatives from the Land of Flowers came to join him, so he was delayed a bit. Given the circumstances, the fact that he still came over to our place is already a big deal. "Oh, relatives?" Kushina's expression dimmed as if she recalled something, but she quickly recovered. She raised an eyebrow, a mischievous smile appearing on her face as she leaned forward and nudged Gojo Kaigetsu with her elbow. "Is it a man or a woman? Distant relative?" And that marks the end of this part of the story. Let me know what you think of this story, and comment for the next part. Don't forget to subscribe and turn the bell notification on to not miss out the next part of the story. See you in the next one.